All right, guys, welcome back to Roxham TV and also welcome back to Jam Crypto. Well, looks like we finally made to the weekend because happy Friday, you guys are going away for the weekend. As for Bitcoin, Bitcoin is kind of like bouncing around. And if you catch yesterday's show, we know that it's basically still bouncing inside a downtrend. And this week is actually the most critical week because it determines whether we are actually heading for a prolonged bear market. When I say prolonged bear market, that means 365 days downward movement. So are we heading for a prolonged bear market, or it's just more like a bear trap? So we're gonna bounce around and head to higher places. The best time is still ahead of us. Well, well, this weekend I would say I'm not chilling because there's no way I'm not I won't be staring at the chart of Bitcoin. So without further ado, let's get straight into the TA because again, there's so much to get through in today's show. So when it comes to daily chart, starting from the shorter time frame, we know we have been a downward movement ever since 126K. So that was someone say it's a cycle top, 126K on 6th of October. And it's so perfectly aligned with the whole 4-year cycle narrative. And even we bounce, basically we try to get above of this downward movement and then we quickly got rejected. So it was like a week. We didn't even get to close above this downward trend, which is again not good for Bitcoin. It's showing a lot of weakness if you ask me from a TA perspective, because like most often than not, okay, we'll get rejected again. So maybe we'll pump to 107K and then we get rejected. And then yet again, 103K, people will say, okay, it's another rally. We are getting out of this bear trap, but maybe we'll get rejected. Like until I see confirmation, like Bitcoin actually closing above this trend line and really retested as a level of support. And then I'm going to flip bullish again. But right now, I hate to break it to you guys. That's not what I see on the chart. Like you, if you guys are watching my show, you know I don't like to sugarcoat anything. This is what I see on the daily chart. So this is what I'm telling you. Like if we keep getting rejected at the key levels, I'm afraid to break it to you, is that cat bounce. All right, so let's also pull up the hour side because I was looking at that yesterday. Another bearish sign I'm seeing from the daily chart is that when it comes to our side, the magical number is 34. Because if we drop below 34, which was the case, okay, we dropped below that on 3rd of November a few days ago, and then we went even a little bit lower. We went to like 32 on the hour side. Usually when that happens, like if we zoom out on the daily, usually when that happens, that means we're gonna have a bigger correction because that's what we saw back in June 2024. So when this happened, we have like a more correction and then it kind of like chops around, so more consolidation. So 34 magical number, when we break below, usually either scenario, so there are two scenarios play out. Either we're gonna chop around, so consolidate, boring, and basically really dull market, or we're gonna end up getting more correction. So either scenario is not looking good. Bitcoin, in terms of the daily candles, is not showing any strength. I'm afraid to break it to you guys. And let's also hop onto the SPX, so S&P 500. We are on the daily, and S&P has has really been correcting. So we reached an all-time high of 69.18. And then we are like, let's see how much we have corrected. So like a little over 3%. So for S&P, maybe it's like it's a lot for S&P, but for Bitcoin, I mean, we are down like 20% from the all-time high. So like what is 3%? That's for the Bitcoin market, right? But as for the S&P, what I'm seeing here is that, okay, we're on the daily chart and this is the 50-day moving average. We are getting close. So it doesn't take a genius to figure out that we are on a downtrend, even on the TradFi market, even on the SPX. So the question that we're going to ask now is that, is Bitcoin going to go as low as the 50-day moving average? If so, that's another bearish sign for Bitcoin. So at least on the shorter time frame, at least on the daily, I'm not picking up any good signs from just a TA perspective. And if S&P gonna correct, Bitcoin gonna follow, because we know S&P and Bitcoin, they are highly correlated with each other. Sometimes Bitcoin will lead because, again, people still view Bitcoin as the risk-on asset and as an early sign of where the S&P is heading to. But if S&P is reaching its 50-week moving average, 50-day moving average rather, then maybe Bitcoin going to follow, and that means deeper correction for the Bitcoin price as well. All right, so that's what I see on the daily chart of S&P. Let's also hop onto the weekly. So we're slowly building up from a shorter time frame to a higher time frame. All right, so again, let me remove all the drawings so it's less confusing. We know, okay, one thing I love to look, and why I think this coming day, so this week, today is Friday, and Saturday and Sunday. So that means in 2 days, we're going to have the weekly candle close. So we're going to have a new, like a fresh weekly candle open on Monday. So these 2 days is very important, because the one indicator that has never failed us, when I say never, like never ever, is the 50-week moving average. All right, so I want you guys to focus on the blue line here. If we have a weekly candle, okay, touching, so wicking, close above the 50-week moving average, that's probably okay. That is just like a correction and turns out to be a massive buying opportunity to scoop up some of that BTC. However, today is Friday, and what we see is that Bitcoin is breaking below its 50-week moving average. So, and Bitcoin is if this is going to be a wick, or we're going to close below the 50-week moving average. So this is again a very critical point, because it's going to change my strategy, and it's going to change my portfolio, because when this happens, when we get a couple of closes below the 50-week, we know for sure this is a bear market, and the whole thing aligned with the whole 4-year cycle. So if that were to happen, I hate to break it to you guys, and you know I'm very transparent with you, I'm going to take massive profits, and especially when it comes to altcoins. Like, this cycle is really weird. Like, I would argue we still haven't technically seen a full-on alt season. Maybe maybe I'm a boomer, because I've been around, so I've seen cycles. Like back in my days, okay, I sound really old now, but like back in my days, when I see an alt season, is that I could literally close my eyes and choose a random altcoin, and it would do 10x. But that's not what we have seen. And what this cycle have taught us so brutally, what 2025 has taught us so brutally, is that all liquidity going to flow back into BTC. And some of my friends turned Bitcoin maxi because of this cycle. So this week is really important. I'm eyeing where it goes for the weekend. So I'm not resting over this weekend. And yeah, it's going to be very exciting and very interesting. So let's see how I'm going to adjust my portfolio. And other bearish sign that I'm seeing is the weekly RSI. So the weekly RSI has actually been forming bearish ever since March of 2024. So here we have a lower high, but in terms of the Bitcoin price, we have higher high. So this is a long-term bearish trend, like long-term bearish divergence that we're building for months, for more than a year. So it doesn't have to be, okay, we're gonna break to a bear market because of this. It could still take some time to build up that momentum, because at the end of the day, we have seen this bearish divergence forming for months, and nothing too concerning for Bitcoin. So again, like, the next 2 days is critical. I'm going to update you guys how I'm going to adjust my portfolio and also my strategy. So that's it for TA. Let's also hop on to the on-chain analysis as well. Perhaps we could offer some more insights of where the market is heading to. So the first one I want to look into is the invested wealth in profit and loss. So what this chart does is that it helps us to see how much Bitcoin money is in profit or in loss right now. Is based on the realized price distribution, but instead of counting how many coins were bought at each price, it looks at how much money, so in USD value, was invested at each prices. So here we have the green bar. So green bars means the Bitcoin investors who are in profit as for today's price, and red bars on the right side. I feel sorry for those folks. So those are the Bitcoin investors who are losing money right now. And then we also have the blue line at the top, which is the total share of all Bitcoin investment that's in profit. So this led us to see like where most buyers enter the market and where they might sell if the price drops again. And let's go back to this chart. So what's happening right now? And then we have this like a 92K drew here. So a lot of investors are sitting at a loss. That means at the red bars here. And there's a strong zone of profit, of course, the green bars on the left from the current price down to around 92K, 92.5K. This is where many people bought in. Okay, so below that level, below this like 92.5K, there is a big empty space, meaning not many coins were bought there. If Bitcoin ever falls into that zone, it could drop very fast because there's no strong buying support. This supports the idea that the low 90K range is the key level for this bull market. So if Bitcoin breaks below it, a lot of investors will suddenly be in deep loss, which could trigger a panic sell-off or capitulation event. All right, so this is the first indicator for the on-chain analysis. I mean, of course, that was not the best news you guys were hoping for. The second one we're looking at is, of course, the funding rate. So the funding rate is, of course, the small fee that traders pay to each other in Bitcoin's perpetual future contracts. So it helps keep the futures price close to the real one, so close to the spot price. Positive funding rate, that means more traders are betting that the Bitcoin price will go up. So they pay that like the small fees to bet it will go down. So they pay those betting it will go down. Sorry. All right. So when it comes to the negative funding rate, vice versa, more traders are betting that Bitcoin will go down. So they pay those betting it will go up. This makes funding rates a great way to see if the market is too greedy or too fearful. When everyone leans too bullish, usually the opposite would happen. So there's a short-term pullback. So what's happening right now? Let's zoom closer. So right now, the funding rate is turning lower from the top of its range, just like what we saw before the last two local corrections in this cycle. So each time that happened, Bitcoin had a short-term drop before forming a new base. So this again, it suggests we could see another correction or shakeout before the next big move up. In past cycles, bottoms form when funding rates turn neutral or slightly negative, showing that leverage was reset and traders were no longer overly bullish. We have been tracking this pattern closely, and so far it has been playing out exactly as expected. So funding rates cooling off before each local correction. So another leg up or a leg down. All right. So moving on to the final indicator, I want to bring it to you guys, is a 200-week moving average. Because we know, okay, in a bear market, Bitcoin likes to go back to its 200-week moving average. And if that happen again, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ape into Bitcoin like there's no tomorrow. All right, so a 200-week, it helps us to see Bitcoin's long-term growth and where it might be in its overall cycle. So here's how it works. It looks at the 200-week moving average, like the average price over the past 200 weeks, and tracks how fast it's growing. The chart changes in color. So there are warm color. So warm color is, of course, at the top. So red, orange, yellow. And then we have the cool color. So blue, purple. The average, okay, this makes it easier to see if Bitcoin is too hot, like warm color means too hot. And then green, like Tiffany blue, I like to call it Tiffany blue. Tiffany or Tiffany is more neutral. And then we have the really bearish, so the really oversold territory. We have that in purple color. So what it means right now is that the heat map is showing cooler colors. So right here, if we zoom closer, we see more purple and blue, meaning the market is still really calm and far from overheated. I mean, of course, we know that for sure, right? The 200-week average isn't accelerating much, which tells us one thing. The bull run hasn't really started yet, or this cycle is so different, like it's so smooth and slower than the past ones. Either way, the data doesn't support the idea that a full bear market has started yet. The pattern looks more like a consolidation period, a time where Bitcoin is just like chopping sideways before the next move up. Even though fear is high, metrics like funding rates, net realized profit and loss show the market could be forming a bottom. The key levels to watch are, I'm just talking about on-chain, okay? Like I'm separating TA and on-chain mentality, so you guys come to the conclusion. So the key levels from the on-chain metrics that we're watching is the low 90K for support and the short-term holder cost basis, which is right now sitting at 112K for a bullish confirmation. So just remember, emotions drive the crowd, but data drives smart investors. Bitcoin often moves the opposite of what people feel, of what people expect. And right now, all signs point to this being a bull market dip, not a full collapse. So that is the on-chain mentality. All right, so let's also hop on to some well, like what Tether has been doing, so-called the smarter money, because this actually came out yesterday. So Tether has increased its Bitcoin holding by 961 BTC very quietly, like no one knew this was coming. And of course, because it's on-chain, so everything could be tracked on Arkham. So if you guys want to track Tether's wallet, here you go. That's Tether's wallet. You can hop onto Arkham and see everything yourself. So they are adding so much Bitcoin and it's worth like $97 million. It's very interesting to see when retail traders were this fearful, Tether was quietly adding and buying again. And this move wasn't random. So what I'm going to do next is let's unpack why they did it and what it says about the long-term strategy and what it means for the broader market. What I'm going to do right now, okay, we're going to take a little break. But after that, I'm bringing a first guest. So my first guest on the Hong Kong Roxham Studios, I'm really excited to have him on. That is Desmond Liao, who is the former Binance data analyst and also crypto.com research analyst. So we're going to take a little break. And after that, we're going to hop on to the Tether news and also bring our first guest on.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin. No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
Alright guys, welcome back to Roxham TV. As I promised you guys before we hop on that little break, we're now gonna unpack why Tether did what they do, because they added quite a massive purchase of their BTC to the reserve. So joining me today is Desmond. He is of course the former Binance data analyst and also former Crypto.com research analyst. So welcome Desmond. So how are you feeling today?
Yeah, very good. Very nice to be here and talk to you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, so one thing very interesting about Tether is that they added 961 BTC yesterday, and the move was kind of quiet because no one kind of know why they would do it, but people track it on Arkham because everything is on chain. So I kind of want to pick your brain right now. So I want to ask for your perspective. Why did they do what they do last night?
I think that's they think now Bitcoin is a very good price to enter because they are long-term buyer, not a flipper. They don't want to sell Bitcoin when the price move up, right? So it's a very favorable time to do that. When all the short-term sellers, they are exhausted, they want to sell the Bitcoin, but that's a opportunity for them to buy the Bitcoin, like strategy does. Yeah, like how Michael Saylor does to like buy Bitcoin in a very favorable price. And for Tether, actually, they have said that they want to use like 15% of their profit to buy Bitcoin. And every year, Tether about they are making like 1.5 like 13 billion in dollars. So every year they are earning that much money, and now they are willing to put like 15% of that into Bitcoin. That's about like maybe 1.8 billion per year. And now Tether is holding like 8 point something billion in Bitcoin, right? And their average purchasing cost is like around $50,000, 50,000 US dollars. So they think that's now maybe a good price to like DCA to start buying Bitcoin to use it as their reserve. And we can see that not only Bitcoin, maybe they also use have gold, which is also performing very well in their reserve. So this is all very long-term play for Tether to diversify their portfolio to make the whole ecosystem and whole company treasury more robust. Yeah.
I find that very interesting because we know the reserve that Tether has, or like as you mentioned, they have gold, and of course they have a bunch of BTC as well. Like, do you think Tether is kind of viewing gold on, kind of viewing BTC on par with gold? Why do they do like basically have this portfolio and adding gold in as well?
I think it's very makes sense because like Bitcoin is like mostly think about like for ordinary people, they will think Bitcoin as a digital gold, a better version of gold. But of course, this year gold performance is better than Bitcoin. Like gold has like a 60% rate rising, but Bitcoin is more or less just on the same level because it has recently dropped about 20% from the all-time high. So I think that is a very interesting move for Tether to also buying gold and Bitcoin together. But for example, if you see from a longer perspective, like gold in a 50 years like a horizon, a time horizon is doing like a annual percentage is just like 8%. So for 50 years, because like gold in the past, they have a 20 years of a bear market from 1980s to 2000 to the early 2000s. So basically for APR for gold is around 7.5% to 8%. So I think for Bitcoin, it's very easy to reach more than 100% every year. So in the past 10 years, Bitcoin they have a three figures return every year in average, even if we count the bear market together. So basically, we can see that Bitcoin is a very good alternative investment if you view it from a more long-term perspective. So I think Tether is have a very a long-term investor mindset and want to buy Bitcoin at discount.
I'm sensing a lot of bullishness from you for sure. So perhaps we should take a step back. Like, how long have you been in a Bitcoin cycle? Like, I'm sure you have seen drawdowns with like a 80% correction. Of course, that is classified as a bear market. But like, how long have you been in Bitcoin cycle? Because people are saying that the 4 year cycle is so intact that we are entering the bear market already. So 126K is the peak we have seen. So do you agree with that using your experience that you have? Because I know you've been around for Bitcoin. You purchased your Bitcoin for a long time. Like when was that? When were your first purchase of Bitcoin?
My first purchase was in 2014. Yeah, when I was in university. So I become very fascinated by the concept that decentralized money and no central authority can issue this kind of currency, and it needs like different parties to join together, like the miners and the validators to be the accountants to record the transactions on Bitcoin. So I think the ideal of the Bitcoin is very like the dream form of money. So the best form is like a utopia of how a money should look like in its perfect form. So I think this are very interesting. And at that time, actually, I want to prevent myself from the dilution of QE, because like we know that all the central government are issuing their own currency and they are printing money every day. So at that time, I want to start to buy some like gold bar or silver bars to prevent dilution and maybe to keep my wealth in a more like a safe haven. Yeah. So at that time, I started to aware that there's a currency called Bitcoin and it's a very new concept. So I think it's a very interesting one. And of course, from the cycles, we have up and downs, and maybe Bitcoin has dropped more than 80% or 90% in some cycles. But I think that the current stage is very different because the DNA of the investors or the holders is very different. Nowadays, it's being held by the governments or the very listed companies like strategies or other treasury DAT companies. So I think the DNA of the investor is very different because in the past, we all know that's like retail investors, we all want to make money, right? So when we have insane amount of profit, we maybe want to sell it to secure the profit. But for institution, maybe they are doing things they see it's in a very long time, like decades or more than 30 years. So for example, like strategy, for Michael Saylor, he doesn't seem to be willing to sell any Bitcoin, even though how much Bitcoin has risen. So it's still accumulating it. And also for Tether, it's using it for reserve. So basically, we can see that maybe we are not going to see that kind of retracement or that kind of huge discount of Bitcoin. And also, many people like think that is a cycle top based on the 4 year cycle, right? And the 4 year cycle is based on the halving of the block rewards of Bitcoin. And in the past, of course, for the newly mined Bitcoin is a very significant part of the whole Bitcoin supply. But nowadays, we can see that the amount of Bitcoin mined every 4 years, they will decrease by half. And with the total supply of Bitcoin now being around like 18 million, the amount of newly mined Bitcoin may be becoming more and more legible in the new halving cycle. So basically, the newly mined Bitcoin is now more like insignificant comparing with the total supply held by the institution and also by the government or the other parties, the big whales. They are becoming insignificant now. And the miners, what they do or will they sell the Bitcoins because the mining costs rise, may not be the major factor affecting Bitcoin price. And also in the past, maybe there are something like affect Bitcoin price other than the halving cycle. For example, we have like the the economic stimulus plan after the COVID, and also we have QE or other things, the government policy and the micro economy and the M2 growth, and also the global liquidity. They are all the factors affecting the Bitcoin price, not just only the halving cycle. So if we simply using the 4-year halving cycle to determine that now, maybe the top of Bitcoin price, maybe that's not very logical, I think. Yeah. So maybe I can see that maybe even if it has reached heights in 1200K, maybe we also have a rebound or also some consolidation around here, because like we can see the recently there are still many people or many Bitcoin address stacking Bitcoin. So maybe that's some sign of relief we can have now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of information. I could tell that you think that the 4-year cycle is getting irrelevant. And I think that is valid point because at the end of the day, nations-wide, like even the US, arguably the most powerful country in the whole world, is getting into the Bitcoin play. So I understand the narratives, but like as you have been around, like you got into Bitcoin since 2014, and every single day I do analysis. I keep telling my viewers that there is actually 3 groups of people in the market right now. The first group is that we think 6th of October, so 126K was already all-time high. So that has happened. And then the second group we have is that we think Q4 2025, so Q4 this year, we're going to see a cycle tool. That means November or December. So the best time is still ahead of us. And then we have the third group of people in the market right now, which is what you say, like the narrative. So we know that the 4-year cycle is getting so irrelevant. I mean, less relevant, I would say. It wouldn't completely wipe that off the table, I would say. So, like, what makes you think this cycle is okay? It is the time, like 2025, it is the time. 4-year cycle is no longer relevant. Is it just because some narratives, like, okay, we have Bitcoin treasury companies getting in, we have nationwide getting in? Because let me remind you, like previous cycles, we have such narratives as well. Like, okay, this cycle is different because we have DeFi now. This cycle is different because we have NFT and bringing like a flood load of people and all retails people are coming in. So I kind of want to push back a little bit. What's the deeper argument here that you think the 4-year cycle is irrelevant?
The argument is that the new mining rewards is no longer relevant, but I don't think that the 4-year cycle is 100% not going to happen, because like, for example, I think there are other factors affecting the Bitcoin may reach an all-time high now, is that the overall crypto space has lose attractiveness comparing to other market, like the US market. For example, now they have narratives like AI and robotics, and there are still a lack of new innovations we can see in Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency stuff. And also, I think, for example, now the gold performance is this year is surpassed Bitcoin, so this will make Bitcoin a lot less attractive, because like for gold, it has been battle test for decades and 100 years, so it has been all around us throughout the human history. And for Bitcoin, if the performance of gold can surpass Bitcoin, so that will make Bitcoin a lot less attractive, because like Bitcoin is still viewed as a high risk investment, right? So if that happen, I think these are the factors that may make the 4-year cycle valid, but that doesn't mean that it's caused by the mining rewards or the halving cycles. So we need to look at the global liquidity and also the M2 supply and also the other factors other than purely the halving cycle.
Yes, I agree with you. Like Bitcoin is getting so big, and some people would view that Bitcoin is basically a macro asset and being on par with maybe S&P or even as gold. So it depends on where you stand. And as you mentioned, you touch upon a little bit about the Bitcoin treasury. So you mentioned MSTL. I wonder what's your take on MSTL? Because right now is on a free fall it has been correcting a lot. So what's your stance on the whole Bitcoin treasury company? Do you think it's a net positive or a net negative for the space?
I still think it's a net positive for the space, but I think this kind of DAT, they are just want to flip the coin. They are not a long-term believer like MicroStrategy or Michael Saylor is. So they are more like want to earn some profit or to gain the market traction, to get the attention, get the eyeballs. But for companies like strategies, it's been all around from the bear market, even when Bitcoin like dropped till 10,000, is also willing to accumulate Bitcoin no matter what the price is. So I think if strategies is they have enough policy or measures to assure that it's safe no matter Bitcoin drops 50% or 60%, I think it's still a long-term gain for the whole Bitcoin ecosystem because like uh, for the strategy or Michael Saylor, he will just keep accumulating Bitcoin no matter its price. So for the long term, I think it's very bullish for them. But maybe many DATs we are seeing now, maybe they will disappear. Maybe they will even sell the Bitcoin and buy back the shares. For example, we can see there's a company called ETHsealer. It's a Ethereum DAT company. It's starting to sell its ETH and start buying back its own company shares because we can see that many DAT they're experiencing the problem is that their MNAV, so it's smaller than 1. So maybe they will face other pressures from their stockholders and they may not have enough bullets to start buying Bitcoin or ETH in this kind of case. So I think maybe many DATs will disappear. It may be a bubble, but I think for the long run, like some companies like strategies, they will still exist. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I agree with you. Like, we know there are more than 160 companies join the whole Bitcoin treasury company wagon. But as I cover on Roxham TV as well, like a few days ago, we saw one of the companies. So Desmond, what he mentioned is an Ethereum treasury company, and then it's happening for Bitcoin treasury companies. So we can see the effect is slowly spreading out. So my question is, like, do you think this is going to be one of the black swans even, and kind of one of the reasons we enter a prolonged bear market? Because these companies, they don't manage the debt to equity ratio because there's like a beautiful balance. Like if you don't manage that carefully, I'm afraid to break it to you, you have to sell your assets and you have to buy back your shares. Do you think this would be one of the reasons we enter a prolonged bear market?
I think that is very possible if we have these kinds of companies, they are forced to sell their holdings and to buy back the shares. I think it's possible for the market to have a very significant retracement, but I think it's less likely for like companies like strategies to put it in that kind of situation. But I think some latecomers which buy Bitcoin at a higher price, they may face this kind of crisis. So maybe this is another level of FTX crisis or Luna happened in the last cycle. We may see that kind of DAT bankruptcy in the future.
Yes, I mean, I agree with you. I do think that around maybe 10 companies out of 160 companies that we are seeing from the DAT list today, like only 10 of them will survive. So let's see how it goes. So anyways, let's move on to some AI news because I know you like Tesla and you're a big fan of Elon Musk as well. What happened yesterday? Well, this news just broke yesterday. So Tesla shareholders just approved the largest CEO pay package in corporate history. So Elon Musk secure up to $1 trillion in stock options worth roughly $878 billion in net value. So if Tesla hit a series of record-breaking milestones over the next decade. So this vote wasn't even close. More than like 75% of shareholders said yes. despite pushback from big investors like Norway's sovereign wealth fund. So why would shareholders hand Elon Musk a deal almost as large as Apple's entire market cap in 2018? Perhaps we could like break down a little bit. Do you know the what's exactly in the pay package and why people like this deal so much?
I think that is like they are giving Elon Musk a potential up to like a 1 trillion incentive in stock options if he can make the company to reach a certain milestones. But actually, the milestones are very hard to achieve because like for example, it's not like getting only the market cap of Tesla like 4x or 7x from the current market cap, but also they have to reach a certain milestones like the sales of the robotics or the including maybe the robo taxi and also the human form robots. The sales maybe need to reach like 1 million robo taxis and also 20 million sales of the uh, EV electric vehicles and also 1 million sales of the Optimus humanoid robots. So the production targets are very hard to achieve. And also it has to be combined with the market cap. So the Tesla market cap have to reach like a 8.5 trillion valuation. So which is more than about like a 5x from today's market cap. So this is very hard to achieve. And from the stockholder perspective, maybe if you can see the stock you're holding like a reach of 5x, your money has become 5 times that you have now. So you are very happy. No matter how much Elon Musk earn, you are still happy, right? So I think that's the reason why they approved uh this vote. And also I think that they have certain kinds of lockup. It's not like when Tesla price reach a 5x, Elon Musk will immediately get the stock options. Maybe he need to like see the price stabilize like in 6 months to get those options. So I think this is a very long term target and it aligns with both parties' interests. Yeah.
Yes, seems like you are a big fan of Elon Musk. And one thing about Elon Musk is that he happens to have the entire empire that he has been building over the years. For example, they have like SpaceX, they have XAI, they have Neuralink, and they have the Tesla, like the energy section. So, how do you think they managed to tie everything together? And why do you think what they've done over the more than a decade would make them a successful company overall?
I think the success of the Tesla is very tied to Elon Musk because like Elon Musk is a very determined person. So from his interview, we can see that's he is a very well planning. So he planned every single tiny bit of his time. For example, when he have a 10-year goal, maybe bring Tesla to like a $1 trillion company, maybe he will start to break it down to a smaller goal. Like what I need to accomplish today, by the end of today, what I need to accomplish, which goal I have, which investors or which companies am I going to meet, or what targets I'm going to have by the end of today. So he can break it down to a very small targets to make him able to deliver a very long-term target. So I think he's a very good person to admire his execution power. And also I think nowadays Tesla is no longer a company about electric vehicles only. When you think about Tesla, maybe you only think about like Model S or Model 3, right? So you can see it on the street. But actually, Tesla is far more than that. It's mainly about AI and robotics today. For example, they have a new stuff called Terraform. So it's something like how to produce chips in a mass scale. So maybe in the future, it will become something like Intel or NVIDIA. So we all know that NVIDIA is now make up of the whole, about 10% of the whole US stocks. So if Tesla can manage to produce this kind of chips in such a large scale in the AI era, so it will be a very bullish uh, milestone for Tesla to achieve. And also we can see that Tesla is putting a lot of effort in robotics like Optimus and Robotaxi. So he want to create a fully automatic like a driving experience for all the road drivers and all the passengers. So if this is done, I think this will boost Tesla to a completely new scale.
Yes, I agree with you. Like most of us who invest in Tesla is because we are betting on Elon Musk. Because one thing about Elon Musk, okay, he might have some delay, he might have some promises, but he always over deliver. So that's why we are betting big on Elon Musk. So, anyways, thank you so much, Desmond, for hopping on Roxham TV. So, final call to action, how could people reach out to you if they want to see more of your analysis, want to know about your perspectives? What's the best way to reach out to you?
I think now maybe you can subscribe to my Telegram channel, or yeah, maybe sometimes I will also be here to have a live stream with Jeremy. Yeah, cool.
Yes, all right. So make sure to follow Roxham TV on Twitter and also make sure to follow my Twitter. So for Roxham TV is at Roxham TV, of course, so ROXOM TV. And for myself is gemcrypto_IO. Make sure you put _IO, otherwise you're gonna get a hacker. And I haven't been posting on my old hacked account for months. So whoever is posting it is not the real Jemmy. So anyways, thank you so much, guys, for watching. As always, my show is it's from Monday to Friday, 4 a.m. Eastern Time. So thank you so much for watching if you're watching live. If not, you are always welcome to watch the playback. So I'll see you guys in the next show and happy weekend.